I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Saskia Videler. How are you going on this beautiful, wonderful morning?
Good morning, Angel. I'm really good. It's autumn in Belgium, and the leaves are turning in their most beautiful colors. And today is not so gray as it usually is here. I can see a blue sky and some clouds. So it's not a bad start for a Friday morning in Belgium.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, please do tell us which of your talents that you've been operating in for this time is responsible for us connecting.
I think that would be podcasting.
Yeah.
I think we found each other through podcasting.
Yeah, tell us about your podcast, please.
I only recently started a podcast in April, and it's about content and UX. So UX is user experience, and it's about everything that makes apps, websites, digital experiences better. And so we're looking at different aspects of that, with a strong focus though on the content aspect and user experience. So not so much the technical stuff, but we might go into sometimes regulations or SEO. We had an episode on, or chatbots. So yeah, it's quite broad and it's super interesting for me to do. Also, I really enjoy doing it.
I loved it. Like listening to the last episode on cognitive bias, I was like, wow. It's great that I'm on this journey, this quest, because I'm getting to go through so much content, right? For my podcast lists, listening binge, if you would. So it's great stuff. I love what you're doing. It was a great conversation with a guy. Is it James Dillon?
David Dylan Thomas. Yes.
David.
Yes, he's
Wow,
amazing.
yeah,
And it was really great because he's from Philadelphia, but he was in Europe just a few weeks ago, and we met in Brussels. And that also feels like, it's so great that the world is big, but not too big. And I'm happy that you listened to that episode, because that is actually an episode that also means a lot to me. It's one of the things that I care a lot about. And it's important that we take into account that our own cognitive bias and the way that we see things has a huge impact on what we do and how we treat others, but also it seeps into our work. And it's no design is like all design is political, all content is political. I think it's Mike Montero who said that, and it's just very important to realize that. And when you do, you can actually have a really great impact on the world, and include more people and hurt less people in the process. So yeah.
Summarized, less judgment.
Absolutely. Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Of course it is. Like you said it, right? Saber-tooth tiger versus rabbit, right? So who did you learn this skill from? The skill of what I see, I could be wrong, of interpretation.
Right. Well, the interpretation part. Who did I learn it from? Well, I actually I learned to make audio productions from a very early age. Like my father was actually a radio DJ. He was a pirate radio DJ. And I have some experience on the Dutch national radio and a little bit on Belgian national radio. And then I did some journalism, some written journalism. So I think like the investigative and the analytic stuff, I might have learned a little bit more outside of the audio world. But then combined with my audio experience, it all kind of came together.
And created amazing podcast. Wow.
Oh, so, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So was like that guy you interviewed, he said, he just started podcasting. Your experience was one that was different, but when did you turn the switch on to it's going to be a podcast? The thing I'm going to create now is a podcast.
I've been in love with podcasts for a while now, and to be honest, I was actually kind of looking for an opportunity to podcast, and I was like thinking of all these concepts and trying to work out like a set of episodes, but I tended to like look for concepts that were a little bit further out of what I am doing, like besides podcasting. And then at some point I had to admit, like, I shouldn't like look for it so far away from who I am, from what I'm doing, and make a podcast about, well, what I'm working on in my daily life, which is content and UX. And it feels more scary because I feel, yeah, you're kind of putting yourself out there, and yeah, it sometimes makes me feel a little bit insecure about it. But it's really, it's such a great learning process, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think you definitely put together what podcasting is versus broadcasting, or versus what radio life could look like, right? It's really you being put out there together with the content and growing over time. It's like a journey. It's
Absolutely. And there's a certain like nakedness to it.
yeah,
Like you only have your voice, you only have the audio to work with, and you can't like cover things up with visuals or anything. So it's really pure, and that's something that really appeals to me.
yeah, love it, love it. Ooh, I'm enjoying this conversation. Okay, so tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Well, I think that must be listening to podcasts. It's about a little more than 3 years ago that I only started listening to podcasts consistently. And I've done it more and more, and like taking all the time and opportunity I had, like when I was walking somewhere, when I'm traveling, or when I'm doing the dishes, like, oh, that's a good opportunity to listen to a podcast. And yeah, I think that must be the most consistent thing that I've done over the last couple of years, listening to podcasts.
I mean, I could definitely hear it in your voice, but please do tell us, how does it make you feel?
Oh, I hate it. No. No, I absolutely love it. I'm amazed by the format of it, of the opportunities. I love discovering new podcasts and discovering the talent of other people and what they can make with this. It's so creative. It's so poetic. It's so and it can also be so perfectly bite-sized, like David Dylan Thomas's podcast on cognitive bias. I love that it's so bite-sized and it's so informative, and you learn something new every episode. It's like your podcast too. It's really nice and short. It doesn't always have to be long, and actually that format is worth a lot too. It's such a help.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy hour-long podcasts, right? You could imagine, right? I understand what you mean. Sometimes it's too short, and sometimes you need more. Yeah.
I know, but it's so great that you can like decide for yourself how long a podcast is, as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And with radio, it was always I had to fill the space of an hour. No, most of the time it was like 2 hours or 3 hours. And sometimes it's just too long. Sometimes you just don't have the content for 3 hours, and sometimes you have content for 5 hours. So it's yeah, I love that it's more flexible in a way. Yeah.
Well, Saskia, I mean, do suggest to someone out there who's doing the dishes and didn't even know, right, that a podcast existed, or who just found out that a podcast is available. Suggest to them to do what you've done by incorporating podcasting from the listening side and now the producer side.
Okay, well, listening to is of course easier to get people into. I think what it did for me, like the most important thing it did for me, is it's a way to it opens my world. Like I've learned so much through podcasting. It's such a great way to learn new skills, or to discover information about things that you never even knew existed. So it really opens or to new perspectives, of course. Like snap judgment is also a great example of that. It gives you a view into other people's worlds, and I kind of feel like it's actually making me a better person in a way.
Yeah.
So for that, it's a good thing, but maybe that's a bit heavy to suggest to other people to start listening to podcasts. I might to some, but it's just a great, great form of entertainment, if I can call it that. Like it's better to grab your headphones and listen to a bit of a podcast instead of grabbing your phone and scrolling through your Facebook feed and just going down that rabbit hole. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of things you can learn from podcasts, and a lot of good entertainment you can get from them too. And about producing it, for producing it, I would say, like, for me, it's just an amazing opportunity to speak to the people that I look up to. So it helps me to connect with other experts in my field and also to dive deeper into the subject matter. So you learn so much yourself about the things that you're making a podcast about.
There we have it. Amazing audience. We are live with Saskia Videler. Again, she is the podcast host of Efficiently Effective. Do check that out. If you needed to send someone somewhere, where would you suggest they go to, Saskia?
To listen to my podcast, you mean?
Yes.
They can go to my website, efficientlyeffective.fm, and there you have a nice overview of the podcasts, and there's also some extra information and links of things that we talk about in the posts. But if you are on the go, then you can just find it in your podcast app.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Saskia, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
That's nice.
Saskia, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, that must be dancing with my father to Moonlight Shadow by Mike Oldfield.
Wow. How old do you think you were?
I think I must have been like 3 or 4.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
I think that in the moment I felt a lot of joy and love, and also it's a song that I was really into as a child. It's like the first song that I remember being like really running down the stairs for when I heard it on the radio, like, oh, turn it up when it was on the radio. And I think it was around then it was in the charts. So it was a combination of that song and then probably love and joy.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Mm-hmm. Please do.
I love the idea of that you at that tender age, time stamping, or if you would, your cognitive skills, if you would, being connected to audio and movement.
Right.
And it's fascinating to see that occurred right there, right? Like the emotion, the sound, and it's mapped on your memory, right? And to see that you're doing that now, where you're actually digging deeper into that, is pretty fascinating.
Oh, I love that interpretation. That's really interesting. Thank you.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Yeah, that's an interesting period to ask for me for my musical taste. Because looking back and being a bit like snobbish about it, I would say like that was not really my best period, like the period that I bought the music that I'm the most proud of. But I'm going to be honest with you, and it was probably something by Roxette, or I think Ace of Base was a little later. But I had this little thing with Swedish bands, and Roxette was definitely a big part of that. So Joyride, I think, something like that. Yes.
Right. But it definitely has been a joyride, right? Like, I mean, going from that dancer to now, it's been a joyride, hasn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it kind of feels like it still is at times.
That's good to know. That's good to know. All right, my friend. Well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to go pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Saskia?
Yes.
Saskia, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Not yet.
Are you married?
No.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you believe in God?
No.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Not more than 3 hours. No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Oh, yes.
And what about
Yes.
what about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Yeah, it's probably 8 hours or more. Yeah.
Saskia, after 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I penned, or something came up, right? And we created a workbook. And the idea of it is that you answer questions to reveal your own unique real self. And as you go deeper, you uncover your mission, your own unique real statement. If you had to share with us your mission, your own unique real statement, what would you say that is?
I would say that for myself, I would have my mission to make the world a little bit better with everything I do. And also try and have fun with it, but never at other people's expense, of course.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. You got a little emotional there, didn't you?
I I'm okay.
All right then. All right. Well, hey, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I'd say that the world is throwing a lot of challenges at us right now, and in politics, economics, and I would say to everybody, stay strong, keep fighting the good fight, and be kind to one another.
Saskia, my friend, great pleasure. Thank you for this conversation, and thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you so much for having me, Angel.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.